Control-obsessed, merciless, they have their own savage tactics, one of the most vengeful and hateful packs. And throughout history they have been known for their bold alliance that fears nothing, which was named the strong Tombela Lion Coalition, or the Shadow Lions Coalition. However, their immense strength and unusual courage did not enable them to overcome the deadly obstacles that, despite their small size, were more ferocious and lethal. These obstacles were represented by microscopic creatures that could not be seen with the naked eye, and were merely deadly viruses that later led to the loss of many coalition members. In the Manyeleti Reserve, the Tumbila coalition was merely a cohesive gang consisting of 6 strong and angry brothers who wreaked havoc and killed many other coalitions, rebelling against their kind. But because fate had its plan, it charted a bad path for this group of lions, from fierce battles with hyenas to bloody confrontations with other lions, not to mention mysterious diseases that ravaged the rest of the coalition. Everyone talked about the immense Tumbila power, especially photographers who loved watching wildlife and nature protectors there in the Kruger National Park, who witnessed the strength of the coalition, their ferocity, prowess in fighting, control, and hunting. This coalition began to disintegrate before their eyes, after the death of its members one by one, until only one survivor remained, who returned to his birthplace searching for a new beginning. To dive into the truth and return to the beginning of this powerful group of lions and know their origins and inherited fierce genes, we must delve into the Savanna, where the sun shines with full force and heat, back to the year 2016, when 6 lively cubs were born in the famous Manyeleti Reserve within the renowned Nauru female pride, which was the most famous in the region. The lionesses of this group were known for their speed, flexibility, and strength, which enabled them to hunt the largest prey, primarily buffaloes, the favorite meal of the large pride. The 6 males born were no less brave than the adults, showing signs of strength and wit from a young age, wit that later crowned them kings of the pride. As with all lions, the cubs left alone for the wilderness to live their own experience, challenge difficulties, hone their strength and personality, and try to survive. Indeed, 5 of the 6 cubs united to form their own coalition, which was inevitable after leaving the pride, and then it was named the Tumbila Coalition. Victory came in their first battles with some nomadic lions, as one of the strong cubs crowned himself king of the coalition. The name Shadow Coalition was not given in vain, as these 5 lions demonstrated their remarkable ability to move stealthily through the shadows of the savanna, remaining unnoticed. They were professional in camouflage and setting up ambushes rarely detected. This skill gave them a crucial advantage, especially in territorial battles, protecting borders and expanding. Thus, no predator or prey escaped their cutting jaws and destructive claws, crossing lands lightly without being discovered. Hence, the coalition gained its notorious reputation among all coalitions in the reserve. Their extreme cunning in setting up ambushes led to slaughtering rival lions, taking over their territories, and mating with their females. Their intelligence and calm strategy helped avoid unnecessary confrontations and choose their battles wisely and cleverly. These lions did not settle in any one place, but chose to wander and be homeless, venturing outside the reserve's borders. They faced the first strong, real challenge from ruling lions there, which had adverse results for the coalition. 2 Tombela lions disappeared without knowing their whereabouts, despite the rest of the coalition searching for them in neighboring areas, but to no avail. It was not known if the 2 lions were killed or went away to establish their own pride. Despite the sudden loss, life had to go on. The rest of the coalition resumed their movement with great stealth and camouflage across the lands, without causing a commotion in their locations, merely hunting nearby prey and moving later to other areas. In 2020, the remaining 3 males found their way to the Sabi Sand Reserve. In the sands of this reserve, fate dealt them a harsh blow, especially when they reached the western sector of the reserve and began roaring to assert their presence boldly, despite initially avoiding the dominant male, who was the last of the Tombela Lions, rulers of the area in recent years. The Tumbila continued their usual strategy of hiding and mating with females away from the Tombela male. But as their strength grew, they began to announce their presence louder without fear, deciding to settle and establish their kingdom in the area, after having enough of wandering and homelessness. By December 2020, the coalition was ready to dominate. They expelled the old lions, killed the 4 young cubs in the pride they found, while the Tombela male withdrew with some females away from the place. Thus, the coalition members solidified their dominance over the area, showing the world what they were capable of. The Tumbila's strength was not only in their ability to fight, but also in their great ability to plan and adapt, making them a coalition feared by their enemies. These dominant lions were smart and always one step ahead of their opponents. They slaughtered every lion that entered their territory in a world where survival depended on cunning as much as strength and strategies. The summer of 2021 brought new challenges to the coalition. While the males were patrolling their territory, one of them found himself surrounded by a clan of hyenas, igniting a terrifying, bloody battle. Between the lion's strikes and his pursuit of the hyenas, and the latter's treachery causing severe wounds on the lion's body, the lion managed to kill 2 hyenas, while the rest fled the scene. The battle ended with severe injuries to the lion's hind legs, preventing him from participating in hunting or defending the pride. Despite the efforts of his brothers and the other lionesses to care for him, offering the best parts of the prey from the hunts, his condition did not improve. He began to refuse food and lost his appetite entirely, with his wounds being accompanied by deadly infections and viruses. The lion succumbed to his illness, last seen in the embrace of the tall savanna grasses in September 2021, before he finally passed away. The remaining 2 lions stayed together for a few days, abstaining from their night patrols or helping in hunts. They were clearly in mourning for their brother. With the coalition reduced to 2, it was time to move on and continue protecting their kingdom and caring for its members. But first, vengeance was necessary. The 2 brothers set off towards the hyenas they considered responsible for their brother's death, leaving their pride for 4 days to track the hyenas. When they encountered them, the lions slaughtered most of them, targeting the strongest first, believing this would honor their brother's memory. They returned after leaving the hyena clan weak and powerless. The coalition expected that their days would finally prosper upon their return, but this did not happen. Especially at the beginning of 2022, one of the lions in the coalition showed signs of a severe illness. His health deteriorated rapidly. The lion suffered from a mysterious disease without battle scars. His condition was so poor that even 2 nomadic lions found him alone while his brother was patrolling the borders, then ignored him because of his miserable state. The sick lion died in June of the same year, and his body was taken for clinical analysis, revealing a strong unknown bacterial infection by the local care team. The situation was so concerning that the last Tumbila lion and the rest of the pride were sedated, and blood samples were taken for lab testing. The procedure was necessary to prevent the disease from spreading like a plague and killing all the cats in the reserve. However, no other lions showed signs of the same bacteria. The disease and the type of bacteria discovered remain a mystery to this day. Now, the last member of the coalition faces increasing dangers alone from rival coalitions pursuing his territory. Unable to withstand the repeated battles against attacking lions, he decided to leave in late July 2022, abandoning the entire western sector and traveling about 30 kilometers back to his former home in the Manyeleti Reserve, like most lions that make the journey back to their birthplace when nearing death. However, this was not the case for the last member of the Tumbila coalition, who was only 6 years old, in his prime, healthy, and in excellent physical condition. His wisdom to avoid conflict and death led him to avoid other lion coalitions, where he could reign for another 3 or 4 years in his place of origin, within his former pride. Despite the great risk of crossing open areas, luck was on this strong lion's side. His path did not intersect with any other competitors until he finally reached his birthplace and settled there. He was seen returning to the reserve, leading a small pride of females, finding his chance to start anew after a journey marked by victories and tragedies. It was considered a saga of strength, cunning, and survival after the last lion and his brothers conquered many lands, survived encounters with many powerful enemies, and overcame relentless challenges. But in the end, it was nature that had the upper hand, against a coalition unshielded from the mysterious and deadly fate that awaited them.
In the heart of Africa's untamed wilderness, stories of terror and dominance are written in blood. Yet, among all the lion coalitions that ruled the savannas, one group's name echoed louder than thunder, a pride whose very presence meant death and destruction. This is the legend of the Moho coalition, the most ruthless alliance ever to stalk the African plains. The Moho lions were not born into power. They carved their dominance through violence, bloodshed, and endless battles. Their story begins in the dense lands of Botswana, where a small group of young male lions was forced into exile. Expelled from their pride, they faced starvation, hyenas, and rival coalitions. Yet, from this suffering emerged a bond forged in fire and fury. 5 lions, led by a monstrous male named Cairo, known for his enormous mane and terrifying roar, joined forces. Each had lost something: brothers, territory, or pride. Together, they found purpose, not survival, but conquest. They became the Moho Coalition, named after the region they would soon rule through slaughter. Their first act was rebellion. They attacked an established pride led by 2 old males and a dozen lionesses. The battle lasted 3 days. By the end, the ground was painted red. The Moho lions killed both leaders and every cub they found. The lionesses had no choice but to submit, and with that, the Moho coalition took control of its first territory. For the next 3 years, they expanded relentlessly. They raided neighboring lands, killing every rival male and cub in their path. No coalition, no matter how large, could stand against them. Their strategy was pure terror: ambush at night, roar during the dawn, and hunt with military precision. Villagers living near the reserve often claimed they could recognize the Moho roar in the distance, a thunderous, bone-chilling sound that made even elephants scatter. The Moho lions' reign turned them into living legends. Researchers described them as ghosts of the savanna. Rarely seen, but always felt. They patrolled an area larger than 500 square kilometers, marking their dominance across rivers, marshes, and grasslands. Even hyenas, the scavengers of Africa, abandoned carcasses when they sensed the Moho scent. But with great power came greater enemies. Rival coalitions began forming, alliances of young males uniting with one purpose: to end the Moho rule. The first challenge came from the east, 3 brothers known as the Njoro males. Their confrontation with the Moho coalition became one of the bloodiest lion wars ever witnessed. The roars echoed for miles, and the aftermath was horrific. The Njoro brothers were torn apart, one after another. The last survivor was chased for more than 2 days before being brought down and killed. However, the war took its toll. One of the Moho lions, a fierce male named Temba, was fatally wounded during the conflict. His body was never found, only traces of blood and claw marks near a riverbank. His loss ignited something darker in the remaining 4. Their attacks became even more brutal. They began killing for dominance, not for survival. Soon, even humans began to fear their proximity. Farmers near Botswana's reserves claimed the Moho lions were responsible for killing dozens of cattle in a single night. Government rangers tried to track them, but found only remains, bones, carcasses, and the trail of their destruction. In 2016, the Moho coalition reached its peak. They controlled 3 major prides and ruled over nearly 60 lionesses. Their cubs dominated the delta, spreading their lineage far and wide. Cairo, their leader, became a legend in his own right, a lion so massive that guides called him the mountain with eyes. His mane turned almost black with age, a sign of power feared by all lions. But time is undefeated. Age began to weaken Cairo, and the younger males sensed it. A growing tension rose within the coalition. The youngest lion, Moho, who had once been loyal, challenged Cairo for dominance. The battle was short, but savage. Cairo's experience saved him, but at a cost. He was gravely injured and could no longer hunt. For the first time, the Moho coalition began to fracture. As Cairo withdrew into isolation, the remaining lions split the territories. Each ruled a section, but the unity that made them invincible was gone. The coalition that once terrified Africa began to crumble from within. Without their alpha's guidance, their dominance faded, and rival coalitions moved in. By 2018, only 2 Moho lions remained alive. Cairo was last seen limping along a riverbank, thin and weak. Days later, vultures circled above. Rangers found his body, scarred, massive, and surrounded by the marks of a final fight. Even in death, he had fought like a king. The Moho coalition vanished as violently as it had appeared. But their legend still lingers, in the roars that echo across Botswana's plains, in the scars left on trees and bones, and in the stories of guides who swear that on some nights, when the wind blows through the savanna, you can still hear the Moho lions roaring together. In the golden corridors of the Masai Mara, where wildlife writes its stories in blood and dust, the winds still echo the roars of the legendary 4 musketeers, Hunter, Morani, Sikio, and Scarface. These kings ruled with iron fists and bravery, leaving behind a legacy that cannot be forgotten. That legacy lived on in descendants spread across the reserve, but 2 stood out with the same passion for achievement, expansion, and rule. They were the strong young lions Red and Tattoo, heirs to the lineage of warriors who grew up under the shadow of the greatest lions. But they were not merely shadows of the past. As expected, they wove their own story. When danger called, they were the first to respond. When the jungle challenged them, they resisted with courage. Now, the savannah awaits to see if the sons of the 4 musketeers will honor their father's legacy. Red and Tattoo were even mentioned in the BBC's Dynasties series. Today, we will learn more about their path. So get ready for an exciting journey filled with power and passion as we uncover the horizons of the lives of these 2 magnificent lions. In the place where the golden sun touches the savanna plains, where the strong animals steer the wheel of leadership, lies the Masai Mara National Reserve. It is one of the most famous places in Africa, known for its rich wildlife and epic battles that shape nature's balance, where stories of glory and tragedy are written every day among lions, hyenas, leopards, and other wildlife. For many years, the coalition of the 4 musketeers ruled this region without rival. Hunter, Morani, Sikio, and Scarface, names that the savanna echoed with a mixture of awe, carrying a legacy of power and dominance. The scarred face of Scarface made him the most famous lion in the world. But as with all dynasties, time had its effect. One by one, the musketeers faced aging and the harsh cycle of the wild. When everyone thought their story had reached its end, it was, unexpectedly, just the beginning of a new tale. Among the descendants left by the 4 musketeers, 2 began to stand out, Red and Tattoo. These young lions bore the weight of a legendary heritage. From an early age, they showed unbreakable resilience, playing and learning to hunt together, as if the power of the original coalition pulsed within them. The presence of Red and Tattoo did not go unnoticed. Their strong builds, firm appearances, and contrasting personalities drew attention. Observers followed them closely. But, like many tales of the savanna, the path of Red and Tattoo was not easy. As they reached maturity, natural challenges arose before them. Karibu and Rafiki had become the new rulers of the pride, while Red, Tatu, and their brothers were coming of age. The destiny of these young lions soon became clear. Red, Tatu, and their brothers were expelled from the coalition. It was time for them to grow and become kings. The first months of their nomadic life were harsh, but sudden loss shaped their character, maturing them into stronger lions. Red and Tatu were now alone. In the past, lions would hunt recklessly without analyzing their surroundings. But now, they would wait and observe carefully before launching precise attacks. Red and Tatu learned not to repeat mistakes, realizing that analyzing the environment before striking was a better tactic. They found themselves in uncharted territory, facing the challenge of living alone. To become stronger, they needed allies. It was time to overthrow another coalition and claim their throne. Indeed, near the Mara River, there was a pride of experienced lionesses led by an old male whose reign seemed close to ending. Red and Tatu waited patiently, aware of their combined strength, for the right moment to act. At dawn, when the old leader rested away from the lionesses, they struck. With lethal blows, they brought him down. Within hours, the former king had fallen, and Red and Tatu seized power. The lionesses instinctively accepted the new leaders, recognizing their youth and strength. Now, the coalition had a territory to defend and a pride to lead. The era of Red and Tatu had finally begun. Unlike most dominant males, Red and Tatu helped the lionesses in hunting. While most males left hunting to the females, Red and Tatu showed them the importance of careful observation before striking to avoid unnecessary injuries. The two lions became a fearsome force, working in harmony. But with the arrival of cubs, things began to change. Tatu seemed content with life in the pride, focusing on protecting the lionesses and raising a strong generation. Red, however, was restless. He patrolled the territory with unusual intensity, often staring at the distant horizon as if searching for something beyond. Red expanded his patrols, venturing farther from the pride's land. To Tatu, this was a warning sign. He knew his partner carried the ambitious spirit of great conquerors. While Tatu stayed near the lionesses and cubs, guarding the pride's heart, Red explored the boundaries, as if preparing for something greater. Finally, Red's unease reached its peak. He did not return from his nightly patrol. It became clear he was determined to follow his own path. Tatu could not ignore his worry. Sensing something was wrong, he set out to find Red, tracking his scent to bring him back. Meanwhile, Red, exhausted from his journey, stopped to rest near a small rock formation. Under the scorching African sun, he lay down to regain his strength. Hours later, Red awoke to the sound of a familiar threat, the cries of a clan of 20 hungry hyenas, led by experienced mothers searching for food. Alone, Red was the perfect target. The hyenas surrounded the lone lion with cunning strategy. Their leader commanded swift, evasive attacks, forcing Red to waste energy on defensive moves. Each strike was designed to sap his strength, making him slower and more vulnerable. Red fought bravely for a long time, but fatigue set in. It was only a matter of time before he collapsed. But Tatu, following his brother's trail, heard the sounds of battle in the distance. Anger filled him as he saw the hyenas attacking Red. Charging in fury, Tatu killed several hyenas and chased their leader, forcing the rest to retreat. He had saved Red's life. Grateful, Red returned to the coalition, spending more time with his pride. Red and Tatu found peace and safety among their lionesses and cubs. For a few weeks, life seemed calm, but Red's restlessness returned. The horizon still called to him. This time, it seemed Tatu shared the same desire. They were the heirs of the 4 musketeers, and the spirit of conquest still flowed in their veins. This time, the 2 lions set out together into the unknown. But they were not alone. Their lionesses and cubs followed them across the vast Masai Mara horizon. Yet, mysteries remain hidden by the savanna. After leaving proudly in search of new lands, Red, Tatu, and their pride disappeared, with no sightings for a long time. Wildlife follows its own rhythm, where silence often replaces answers. Tatu was not seen again until 2019, when rangers spotted him with a small group of lionesses mating with one. Though Red was absent, Tatu seemed to have found stability with new lionesses, different from those of his original pride. After that, Tatu disappeared once more. Officially, that was his last sighting. Still, regular visitors to the reserve claim to have seen the brothers at different times, living nomadic lives alone, without lionesses. Some even claimed they saw them separated, each walking his own path. Whether these reports are true or just reflections of the desire to keep the memory of the heirs of the four musketeers alive, no one knows for sure. What is certain is that, like their fathers, Red and Tatu left their mark on the Masai Mara. They taught us that loyalty and partnership can save lives and impose dominance across the vast savanna.